So I was working on the problems at my son's math meet today. Okay, I'll admit it, I'm a geek. But as I was saying, I was working on the problems at my son's math meet. And for one of them, the obvious answer was a simple 2.5 meters. Then I thought about it a bit. And I decided the answer had to be less than 2.5. But how much less? Good evening, Kemp Toastmasters. Yes, for me, a fun afternoon is seeing if I can match mathematical wits against a bunch of STEM-loving teenagers. This time, I actually did quite well. I got the correct answers on all of the individual problems. Well, sort of, as we'll see. And consoled myself on the team problems because I wasn't on a team. For some reason, there weren't 4 other parents hanging around trying to do the same problems as their children. I don't know. I guess I'm just a little bit geeky. So let me read you the original problem here. A large sphere is on a horizontal field on a sunny day. At a certain time, the shadow of the sphere reaches out a distance of 10 meters from the point where the sphere touches the ground. At the same instant, a meter stick that is 1 meter in length, held vertically with one end on the ground, casts a shadow of length 2 meters. What is the radius of the sphere in meters? Assume the sun's rays are parallel and the meter stick is a line segment. So I calculated 2.5. Then I realized there had to be a little bit less than 2.5, but I didn't know quite how much. And I thought, well, these teenagers, they're up on their tangents and cosines and all that good geometry stuff that I forgot about 30 years ago. But, well, I'll just go with a little less than 2.5. And besides, who knows how to calculate the shadow of a sphere anyway? And why would it matter? It doesn't matter if it's exactly 2.5 or almost 2.5. Sometimes the exact correct answer matters because the point of the question is to get the answer right, not to any inherent value in the answer itself. A math meet is just such a situation. When the moderator announced the answer, he immediately noted that the answer of 2.5, he immediately noted that a number of students had not answered the supposedly correct answer of 2.5, but some slightly smaller number. Everyone is agog, waiting to find out what the real answer would be. A little later, he explained why it probably shouldn't be 2.5. At the end, after he worked through a whole long page of calculations to figure it out, he announced that the proper answer was 10 times the square root of 5 minus 20, which happens to work out to almost 2.36, which isn't actually so far off from 2.5. I felt great about my less than 2.5 answer. I was pretty close. But it got me thinking, does it really matter? Does it matter whether it's a little less? Does it matter if it's exactly 10 times the square root of 5 minus 20? I thought there must be a connection to the real world. No, I don't think there's going to be a sudden need to calculate the shadows of spheres all over the place. If that suddenly becomes a thing, then I'm sure someone will create an app for that. The answer is a fuzzy answer. It isn't 2.3 versus 2.4 versus 2.5. The actual answer is an irrational number. It can only be rounded off to actually use it to, say, 2.36, or just call it a little less than 2.5. For different uses, 2.3, 2.36, 2.4, or just 2.5 may all be acceptable values. In fact, the actual border of a shadow of a sphere is sometimes referred to as soft or fuzzy. Depending on a bunch of factors, the shadow of a sphere doesn't necessarily go from total black to total light. For some things, an exact number of measurement or value matters a lot. Most of the time when you think you need an exact number, you don't really. There's a certain amount of fuzziness allowable all over the place. I'll give you another example. I've talked about a lot about electricity lately. We say that the standard voltage in the US is 120 volts. Well, not exactly. It used to be 115, and before that it was 110. And in fact, the official standard right now allows for 114 to 126. All of that is still considered good enough as long as it's not bouncing around. You pick a number close enough, you're done. And it's 100% acceptable. And lots of modern electronics can even use more power or less power, either higher voltage or lower voltage than that. But fuzzy means more than just an inexact calculation or an estimate of approximation. Fuzzy can also refer to fuzzy logic. Boolean logic is exact, zeros and ones, true and false. But there are a lot of times when you put in different numbers and when you always put in a particular number, you get a particular number out. But fuzzy logic works differently. Fuzzy logic works on numbers between 0 and 1. And sometimes you'll get different answers depending on a bunch of different factors. And it turns out that this actually is very, very useful. It can be used things to help trains run more smoothly. It can be used for handwriting recognition. It can be used for all kinds of different things. And so sometimes fuzzy can actually be very, very good. If you're building a building, the blueprints need to be exact. And if the blueprints say you put a hole over here and you connect something over here, you've got to do that or the building's going to fall down. But in so many other things, fuzzy is okay. To go back to our sphere and a shadow, if you're going to put up your beach umbrella and you want to see how wide a shadow will cast on the beach, does it matter if it's 2.5 meters or 2.36 meters or 2.4 meters? No, it probably doesn't. That shadow is going to be fuzzy and you're going to have sand all over the place anyway. So next time you're thinking about, we've got to get these numbers just right, think about maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe it can be a little fuzzy. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.